So for the past week, we have been looking at all different aspects of intuition. And maybe you just thought that there was the gut instinct. And now what we have discovered, or what you have discovered, and I kind of knew for a while, is that you have got your somatic intuition, which is your body intuition, which we did on Monday. You have got your mental intuition. You have got a connection to collective consciousness. Oh no, we did empathy, emotional intuition, and then collective consciousness. Yesterday, we talked about the gut brain. Today is our final class. And today we're talking about the heart brain. So I'm going to start by reading you something that I wrote a while ago. It comes directly from my book, You Do Know, Learning to Act on Intuition Instantly. If I could tell you how long it took me to come up with the title of that book, you would laugh. I think I came up with about 200 titles, and that was number 5. That's just the way it goes. The heart has its own independent nervous system. Like the gut, there are at least 40,000 neurons, that's nerve cells, in the heart. This is as many as can be found in the subcortical centers of your brain. Do that again. This is as many as can be found in the various subcortical centers of the brain. Oh my God! If that doesn't blow your mind, then, well, it might blow your heart center or something, because you've got a mind in your heart. This is insane. And here's the thing about your heart brain, right, is there has been, I mean, a lot of cases, and don't panic if this has happened to you, you've had a heart transplant, right? But there's been a lot of cases where people have had a heart transplant and it has changed something fundamental about the receiver of the heart. I think one of the greatest stories that I have read about this is a man who was a truck driver, you know, no stereotype here, but meat-eating truck driver, kind of chewing on a Yorkie, and not type of dog, that's the chocolate bar in the UK, chewing on a Yorkie, and he became vegetarian, having received the heart of a vegetarian. He became a vegetarian. He probably took up yoga. It's like, wow. So there's also been the odd case, it could only happen in America, but it has happened, where the person who received the heart was able to draw the person who murdered the person who had the heart previously. Woo! That's insane, isn't it? That's insane. So you have a brain in your heart that is capable of storing like memories. So if you have, if you, I don't know, if you have a heart transplant, you could actually have a part of someone else's brain in your own body. I just think that that's wonderful, marvelous, and kind of scary at the same time. And well, I mean, you'd just be lucky to be alive, both of you, in different ways. How would that even work? And where is the soul? Is the soul in the heart? And then in which case you'd end up with the soul of another human being. Okay, let's just stop there, because that's going really too weird, because we all know that the soul is not in the body, it's the awareness. So we know that, so we don't have to panic about your soul being transported to somebody else. What do you think this is, sci-fi? So the heart has this incredible capacity to be able to sense the world around them. And of course, when we talk about love, we always talk about love coming from our heart, don't we? And yet, how do we know that love comes from the heart? Because you get this fluttery, weirdy feeling around your heart center when you're in love. And it's, I mean, if you try to describe that, could you describe it? And how did we know it kind of came from there? And is it the brain in our heart that makes the decision about love? You know, so we know that love is an oxytocin chemical. So you have oxytocin comes into the brain if you've had a nice warm bath, chocolate, massage, physical touch. And oxytocin is what's known as kind of like the mother's drug. It stops you throttling your baby at 3 o'clock in the morning when it won't sleep and you are desperate to get to sleep, because we're filled with this oxytocin chemical. They call it the baby brain because it also makes you a little bit gaga. So When you're in love, it's the same sort of thing. You can't think straight. You don't necessarily want to eat. It kind of throws you into a bit of a spin. So we know that being in love is a hormone. We know that that's partly, I think it's a hormone, but it's definitely a chemical. We know that oxytocin is responsible for that. And what's really interesting, if you've ever been what I call a 3-month wonder, autobiographical, but if you've ever found yourself, you've met someone and you're telling all of your friends, I've never felt like this before. This is the most incredible. This is it. This is the one. And your friends are like, yeah, mate, you said that last time. It's because when you're being pumped full of this oxytocin, you can't remember what it was like before. It's a little bit like giving birth. You wouldn't have a second child if you remembered what it was like the first time. So it's like this incredible sort of, oh, this is it. This is the one. Then after about 3 months, or it could be like several times after having sex with that person, the oxytocin starts to dry up. And the reason being, Mother Nature kind of thinks, well, if you haven't got pregnant in this length of time, then obviously there's an infertility problem here. So we need to take away the oxytocin so that you fall out of love with that person and go and find somebody else to connect with. How bonkers is that? So you may find that after, I've just averaged it out as 3 months, but you may find that after a certain point in a new relationship, you suddenly go, he's had his hair cut. Oh, I don't know if I fancy him anymore. And this used to happen a lot when you're younger and you are more connected with your sort of hormones and things like that. You just kind of go, oh, that's a little bit weird. I'm not quite so into that person now. So now we can see why the no sex before marriage became a thing, because it makes sense, doesn't it? Because otherwise you're like, oh no, too late now, I'm married. Okay, so I don't want to stamp on anybody's beautiful beliefs or whatever. So back to the heart brain. So is it the heart that creates the oxytocin? Is it a different feeling? Is it something else that kind of like creates? Because when we're thinking about the oxytocin, I think that the difference between when you want to be with somebody and when you need to be with somebody. And I think that when your brain is flooded with oxytocin, it's like a need, and it can be an addiction. So, for example, if in that time period someone starts messing around, they don't text you, oh my God, they haven't texted me back. I haven't had a text. Oh my God, they haven't texted me. Oh, there's a text. That's your oxytocin. And so what happens is oxytocin makes you feel addicted to the person. So you're addicted to the attention of the person. So when they withdraw love, you're like, and then when they come back, you're like, yeah. And it's this up, down, up, down, up, down. And what's bizarre is when you get into a relationship with somebody who's really nice and they don't do the up, down, up, down, up, down, they're consistent. You go, I don't know if I really like them because I'm not on this roller coaster of emotions. Yeah, it's called nice. That's normal. That's lovely. That's nice. But if you're not used to it, it feels bland. So I'm just saying, the highs and lows of oxytocin can be a real misguided thing as to whether or not this is the one. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when we're looking at heart-led intuition, of course, I'm using relationships as an example of this, but we can get completely like confused by highs and lows of emotion when it comes to love, because that's what's going on in the brain, because the brain has got all of this oxytocin. But there's something else behind that. There is your intuition that comes from your heart brain. And that's when, despite the oxytocin, you might go, oh, I'm not feeling it in a different way. I'm not feeling it in a deeper way. And that might be when your gut is actually saying to you, there's something a little bit off with this person. But your oxytocin goes, oh, ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. They're great. But your heart kind of doesn't surge. And that is not a need. That's a want. It's like I want you. And so that want, and I don't like the word want. I'm really resisting it here, but I think it's like this kind of like this, and you can feel it about anything. You could feel it about a car, oh, I want that kind of car. I quite like convertible Jeeps at the moment, not very environmental. I think I only really like it to look at. Don't know if I take one to bed, but that kind of, and it can be, I mean, I had this whole, like that over getting a dog. So sometimes you can have this kind of feeling and it really just comes like it's coming out of your heart. Now, I've described this before, but this heart area here is quite interesting because for many of us, we find that I would love, and what we're trying to get is a kick of desire. We think it's happiness, but actually through marketing, we've been taught that desire equates to happiness. But desire is often short-lived. You desire something, you get it, and you're kind of done with it. But marketeers have kind of mixed up our views on what happiness is. And we believe that having stuff will create happiness, but it doesn't. It just creates desire. You fulfill that desire, and then there's no ongoing happiness. And a lot of research has been done into the meaning of what is happiness and what does it really mean. And because everybody just says things like, I just want to be happy. But to me, there's only really one way for sustainable happiness. And that's when we get all of the stuff out of that heart center, that hole in our chest that says we're not good enough. You know, we're not enough, we're not this, we're not that. We take all of the stuff out of that heart center, and we take, and we talked about this in collective consciousness, that mirror that is inside of us from the dull side out to the reflective side. And we start giving to the world what it is that we want to receive. So connection, attention, listening, all of that. And what the heart does in terms of intuition, I feel is just profoundly beautiful, because it listens to people. It listens to not what they're saying, but the space in between the words. So we talk about 3 levels of listening. You know, we talk about, oh, what you're saying, what has it got to do with me? What are you saying, and what am I going to say next to sound cool? And then the 3rd level of listening is when we don't listen with the filter of what about me? We're not listening to respond. We're not listening to be able to kind of come up with something cool. We're not listening to fix the person's problems, but we're just being in that complete place of presence. And that kind of listening has no words. So that kind of listening has no thoughts. That kind of listening just feels. And it feels with an unconditional love. So if you imagine that, I've now got the scene from Fleabag in my head. But if you imagine that when you went to confessional and you went and talked to a priest, that was what you wanted. You wanted to be witnessed in your shame. Shame is a killer. That's just, it's a killer. Shame, I think, is the thing that kills more men than women. When it comes to suicide, I think shame is a really uncomfortable emotion. Moving on quickly from shame. But when you sit and you talk through the things that you feel are the worst thing that you did, or the worst thing, you know, or you talk through your victimhood with somebody, this person did this to me, this person did that to me, you're also talking through the shame of, why didn't I stop it? Why didn't I do something about it? You know, because it's never that anything or anyone is 100% comparable of anything, unless you're a child, and I draw the line at that thought. So when your heart listens to somebody's shame, or listens to somebody's story, or listens to what somebody is saying from that level of no thoughts in your head, but absolute, complete compassion, if you are able to do that, you are listening with the eyes of God. Now, whatever God you perceive, whatever that is, but I'm using that term to describe a creative, loving, profound energy, the energy of creation. You are able to connect with someone in a way that is so profoundly healing that you can transform a life by listening like that. Because when somebody feels fully heard, received, and understood, they automatically transform. And I think that a lot of therapy, I'm very fascinated by placebo, by the way, so placebo drugs, and because I do believe that the body can heal itself given the right set of circumstances. And I'm very interested as well in epigenetics because of this. So what's going on in your environment, as well as what's going on, you know, what are you eating, what's in your environment, how are you feeling, what's your emotions. So when we set the right environment for somebody, then that can be healing and transformational. So someone wanted to book an appointment with me, and they wrote and they asked me the question, they said, are you a healer? And I said, it can be a side effect of talking to me. It can be a side effect, which I thought was really funny, because being listened to intuitively, which is why I call myself an intuitive catalyst for my one-to-one consultations. When someone listens to you intuitively, and don't get me wrong, I give shitloads of advice, so it's not me listening intuitively. I'm listening intuitively, and then advice comes out, because otherwise you just sit there and I'd be very quiet and it would be like, well, what? You know, I came here for help, you know. But I'm not listening to what someone is saying, because what they're telling me is a story, and lovely story, but that's not actually really what's going on. That's what they think is going on. And if what they think is going on was correct, they'd fix it themselves. I have never met a single stupid client of mine. They are so freaking smart, they would have fixed it themselves. They're coming to me to hear the space in between the words, to hear the things that they are not hearing for themselves. And by listening intuitively, you can say, do you think it's this? Do you think it's that? And in a way, I've stopped doing what I used to do, is be able to pinpoint and go, when you were 8 years old, this happened, and now that's why you're doing this, and it's a limiting belief, and here's how to get rid of it. But what would happen is the minute I said, you were 8 years old, this happened, they go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that's so freaky. How on earth did you know that? That's so freaky, that's really freaky. How did you know that? How did you know that? Oh God, now I've lost them in an obsession about, oh, it's like, oh, this is psychic, this is insane, you know, all of this stuff. So I've stopped doing that. I don't pinpoint what I can see and what I know, because I lose the impact of the point. Because it's not about what happens. It's not about how amazing I am that I could see it. It's not about the fact that I can describe what your father-in-law looks like. It's not about that. It's about, what does the intuition create and therefore change in a healing environment, in an environment where that shifts something, that level of listening shifts something. Now, I am not special in being able to listen to people like this. You absolutely 100% can listen to people like this. But most of us don't, for a couple of reasons. There comes this sense of responsibility with listening with all of your feels on. So you're feeling all of the feels. You can listen to somebody with this level of unconditional love. You are the witness of their story. You are the archetype of the priest. You are that, the archetype of the witness, the archetype of the priest, priestess, goddess, whatever you want to call it, I don't really care. But you are coming at somebody with that level of holding space for transformation. You're not creating the transformation, don't get all excited. You're not creating it, but what you're doing is you're letting somebody feel so seen, intuitively seen and loved, really loved. And for many of us, we don't feel real love on a daily basis. We feel real need. I need you. But we don't feel that unconditional love that has no wants or needs. And just by being in that, whatever it is that you're carrying, whatever it is that you need to put down, whatever it is that you're not seeing, and even if it can just be, I'm looking for a career path, I've got a terrible problem with my neighbour. Why am I going out with the same person with a different face? What is going on with, you know? So it's like people always say to me, they will say, oh, but everyone comes to see you about relationships. No. And sometimes people come to see me about something and they get an answer to something completely different that they didn't come to see me about. And actually, once that's done, the other thing doesn't even matter anymore. So, you know, it's quite bizarre. Sometimes people book appointments with me and go, I don't know why I'm booking an appointment with you. I just know I need to speak to you. Great. And they can be some of the most profound appointments, because all we're doing is creating a space that has a profound sense of love in it. And by doing that, I think that when we come to any kind of therapist, but especially therapists who use their intuition and can go into that sense of love, It's about the relationship that's created between you or them and you being the therapist. It's about the relationship that's created. So it's, you know, when people kind of go, I'm coming to talk to a therapist about my childhood, I wasn't loved as a child. The therapist spending time to listen to you with a profound level of listening heals whatever the heartbreak was about your lack of lovability. Pretty much every problem I have ever had to deal with comes back to, am I enough? Am I lovable? Am I love? Is that for me? Can I have that? And if you come back with the answer, whatever the question, yes, you are lovable. And I am proving it to you by the way I am seeing you intuitively, the space in between the words, connecting heart to heart, connecting my heart to your heart, so that you can feel that you're profoundly lovable, and then it shifts. And then whatever that emotional state was being created in your body, whatever tension, whatever, it shifts. And I think that that's what healers do. I think good healers, I think that's what psychotherapists can do. I think anyone that holds that kind of space, I don't care what your modality is. And this is why I qualified as a life coach, in order to get, you know, ducks in a row, what you need to do for insurance and all of the other stuff. But what takes place in a therapeutic environment like that is unconditional love. And you can go to somebody who has the most incredible set of exams, unbelievable, like, you know, they're a psychotherapist, they've got this, doctor that, doctor the other, and Doctor Who. But unless they love you, doesn't really matter. They're just going to be talking at you and not with you, in you, around you. It won't come out of that place. So lots of people come and see, you know, say lots of people come and see me, but I've heard this said over and over again. I spent years in therapy. I have got more out of this 1 hour session with you than I got out of 6 years worth of therapy, because it was never about the therapy. It was never about what was going on cognitively, because cognitively is always saying that there's something wrong with you. So any time you are disheveling what you think is wrong with you, you are doing it from the viewpoint of there's something wrong with you. And that doesn't sound like love to me. That's not love. So if you come and see someone who wants to point out what's wrong with you and deal with what's wrong with you, they're not loving you. They need to be pointing out what's amazing about you. I mean, they'll make money out of you, don't get me wrong, because you keep going back to undo and then undo and then undo and then undo all of the shit that is wrong with you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you apart from one question. Am I enough? Am I love? Can I do this? Yes, you are love. Yes, you are amazing. Yes, 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 you are enough. Okay, thanks ever so much. Bye. And if you can't tell someone that, I mean, and sometimes they can't hear it, and it takes a number of sessions for them to be able to hear it. And I've been doing this 20 years. So sometimes it takes a number of sessions over a number of years, and people come back round to me again. Or they'll go, I forgot what you said. You said, yes, I felt I was lovable and I don't feel it anymore. Okay, great. Well, here you go. Another dose of lovability. Boom. Heart opens. Yes, I feel I am the embodiment of love. So how is that going to work? Here we go. Right, so I'm just messing around with Clubhouse. How do we do that? How do we listen to the space in between the words? So here's the thing. Now, this is where it gets really tricky. You can do this for yourself, about yourself. You can love yourself like this. So remember when I was talking about, if you're really drunk, the awareness is sober, you know, so you're slurring, you're falling over, but you're aware that you're drunk, and the awareness of being drunk is sober. So your awareness can love you in that kind of profound way, because your awareness is not your ego. Your awareness is not kind of like, am I enough? Is it all right? What am I doing with my life? You can love yourself in that way. And it might just be that you take some time to put your hand on your heart and you feel into yourself, and you just feel, you know, if I was the embodiment of love, what would that feel like? And just become curious and keep going. Where is my love? Where is my love? Where is my love? And I have to warn you, this exercise comes with a bit of a warning. It can result in spontaneous tears, because when you actually start to see yourself as being a being of love, not a being of ego. It's funny, I was actually talking about this last night with a friend. We were talking about whether or not the fundamental core nature of human beings is shitbaggery or love. There was no other option, shitbaggery or love. And I remember a point in my life when I absolutely believed that the core nature of human was shitbaggery. I really did. And I said, well, look, you know, kids are born being selfish little buggers, and we have to teach them kindness. So they don't pop out of the womb being lovely. Like we talk about babies popping out of the womb, you know, kind of being innocent. Well, sort of, but they're also quite selfish, you know, and they're very much out for themselves because bits of the brain hasn't arrived yet that makes them understand kindness. You have to teach them, you know, share your toys, you know. So that, and then when we look at everything that we're doing to the planet and everything that we do, like, you know, cruelty to animals, like all of that stuff, you could really easily think that the core nature of a human being is shitbaggery. So I went to go and talk to Robert Holden. Robert Holden is a spiritual teacher, and he and I have had the same publisher. He was a very, very, very dear friend of Louise Hay, and he's a really great guy. And I asked him this question, and he looked at me and he goes, the core nature of humans is love. And I got really angry. I don't think I showed it though. And I was like, I can't understand that. It's not true, because look at all of the terrible things that we do. And he just put his hand to steady me, I think, on my shoulder. Calm down. Not in that way. Not no, calm down, woman. Not in that way. And he just said, what you're talking about is ego. It's part of the survival that we're trying to survive. That's all ego. That's survival. That's not our core nature. Our core nature is love, it's expression, it's creativity. You know, we have hands, we can do nice things for animals, we can tend gardens, we can, you know, take stupid nets off dolphins and things. It's like we have hands, we are the caretakers of the earth. But we got lost somehow in the mix and forgot all of that. So I now feel, rather than I think, that the core nature of humans is love. Because when you look into the eyes of somebody and you hold their gaze for any length of time, you will start to fall in love with them. And I know that might sound a little bit kind of, I mean, I'm telling you, even if it's the, you know, the barista, if they'll hold your eye gaze long enough, you will be in love. And I don't care what the person looks like either. If you hold the gaze of someone long enough, you will fall in love with them. You know, and not the oxytocin love. I'm talking heart opening. We are all one, we are connected. So what I would say to you with this next kind of like exercise is to become aware of that, become aware of how to love yourself. So self-love is not petals in the freaking bath, that's self-care. Self-love is when you undo all of the blocks that you have created from seeing yourself as being the core of love. And that might mean, you know, that you, anything to do with your ego, any shame that you carry, anything, you know, that, oh God, I bought that thing and it's covered in plastic, whatever, put your hands on your heart and really become curious, go into the levels of it and go, okay, so how can I see more love in me? How can I find more love in me? So I'm putting words to the curiosity, but try not to have any words if you can have it. I know that's really tricky. Start with words if you need to, but feel in deeply. It can create spontaneous tears, because when you actually feel the love that you hold in yourself, you can't unfeel it. You can't unfeel it. And if somebody can take you to that place, then that's great as well. And we feel so much more empowered in life when we know that we're loved. But gosh, can you imagine how empowered you would feel if you didn't need to be loved by anybody else? That was just a beautiful side product. Amazing. So that's part one, feeling yourself and feeling love. If you choose to do that, you might choose not to, and that would be completely fine. Follow your own intuition on this. If you can, spend some time looking at someone as if you have decided that their core nature is love, and you will see it, even in somebody's like normal everyday actions. You will see it. And weirdly, a bit like what happened to Anna yesterday when she fed back at 5:30, the world starts to change when you start looking at it through the eyes of love, looking for love. It starts loving you back. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So Anna was sharing a bit about some of the things that had happened to her. Cars stopping to let her cross the road, people offering to carry her bag. Brilliant. Just think how big that could get. That's just the beginning. Okay, so we are at time. We will be back at 5:30 in Clubhouse for Q&A. If you're seeing this anywhere else apart from Clubhouse, put questions in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I see them. And have a wonderful day, and I'll see you back here at 5:30. Okay, bye-bye.